Good morning, Gamergate, and not your shield. I'm going to step onto my soapbox a little bit today. I know I've said that Gamergate and not that Gamergate explicitly is not about feminism. It's more about game journalists and the bullying that we as gamers have to deal with on a daily basis for years. It has to do with journalistic ethics. It has to do with transparency, with cronyism. There are so much that it has, that Gamergate itself stands for, and most of it is tied to journalists. But Not Your Shield, I think, is the part of Gamergate has come about from Gamergate that discusses feminism and the way that games and game designers deal with the people who play games, the gamers. Do they, and it's about gamer demographics and how these relates. And mine as a woman, my take on all of this is going to be, of course, feminism, because I'm being attacked because of it. Many of you have visited my Twitter profile and commented on my pinned tweet. Now I'm going to read this next part. For those of you who haven't, my pinned tweet is about David Auerbach's Slate article titled "Letter to a Young Male Gamer." And in this article, Mr. Auerbach asks us to stop publicly criticizing female game developers and to go after the men, but to give the women a pass, a free pass. This is the way he puts it. Give women a free pass because women have it harder in the gaming world. Even if he goes on to say, even if you think the women merit criticism, don't criticize them. And I disagreed with this because I'm a woman, and my reply was that I've been fighting all my life to be taken seriously in my work and my hobbies, and I resented being told that women are too fragile for my work and my hobbies. So again, I'm going to be stepping on my soapbox. I've been told in articles about the Not Your Shield supporters and female Gamergate supporters in particular that we all have internalized misogyny. And I don't think the people who say that we have internalized misogyny really understand what that word means, or what that phrase means. It means women, well, let me give some illustrations first. To illustrate, let me tell you some stories from my past. I'm going to start when I was 13. That's when I discovered I was a nerd or a geek. Before I was 13, I was just a normal kid. Growing up in the 60s and 70s, there weren't a lot of nerdy / geeky things to do. I got a microscope for Christmas one year, and that's about as far as it went. But when I was 12 years old, Star Wars came out, and it changed my life. It showed me, epic stories, and it introduced me to science fiction, and it was the most amazing thing I had ever seen. And so for my birthday that year, I asked for Star Wars merchandise, and instead I got it all. What every 13-year-old girl wants, but my family got me a doll. And they said it was to remind me that I was a girl and not a boy, because Star Wars was for boys and Barbie is for girls. So I got it. My reaction to this was not to turn my back on Star Wars and be resentful that I was turning to everybody because I was turning my back on something I loved. What I did instead was I went out on weekends and I started cleaning our neighbors' houses on weekends and earning my own money, and I went out and bought my own damn Star Wars merchandise. So that's one. And I really, really loved computers. And I wanted to major in computer science, but I was told that again, computer science is for men. Become something like a teacher or a nurse, or in my family there are only three jobs for women, and those are mother and waitress and teacher. And that's the culture that I grew up in, is that those are the three things that women are allowed to do. So I kind of pushed back a little bit then, not a lot, but a little bit, and I got an accounting degree. So not a teacher, but again, not computer science, which is what I wanted to do. It took me 12 years, but I finally did become a computer technician, and that was one of the happiest times of my life. When I was for the first job I got, I was so proud of myself. Another story that kind of illustrates what my family and the culture that I grew up in is one year at Christmas, one of my much younger cousins came up to me and asked me what it was like to be a lesbian. And I kind of laughed at him and said, "Honey, I'm married, I'm not a lesbian." And he said, "But you like boy things. You like computers and video games and science fiction and Xena Warrior Princess." And I have no idea where the Xena came from, but and I told him that just means that I like computers and and science fiction and video games and Xena. It doesn't mean I'm gay. It just means I'm different. So that's kind of the culture. That's the culture. And would it have been easier for me to conform? I'll get in. Yeah, with my family, yes, it would have been. But I kept on enjoying all my hobbies. And I also have, finally, I like to tell a story. I also have some serious health issues, and 16 years ago, when my husband was leaving the military, he had done his 8 years active duty, and he was getting out. His first sergeant came to him and said, "Hey, listen, your wife has some health problems, and if you leave the military, you might not be able to get a job that has health insurance, and you should re-enlist because you need to take care of her." And when my husband came back and told me this, that this is what they were saying to him, it annoyed me. So I decided to, within a month, I had a job that had my own health benefits. It was a job with a large tech corporation. It was my first job as a technician, not besides being hobbyists type of stuff. And I had my own health benefits, and my husband had the freedom to make the decision to leave the military on his terms, without worrying about me, because that's what I wanted to give him. I didn't want him to re-enlist in the military if that wasn't because of me, if that isn't what he really wanted to do. But because I had my own job with my own health benefits, he was able to make whatever decision he wanted. And if I had internalized misogyny, I would have pushed all thoughts of doing anything that wasn't feminine, or that my culture determined wasn't feminine, aside, deep down, so that I could conform to the society around me. But I didn't do that. I would have accepted the doll. I would have become a teacher. I would have left my hobbies behind. And excuse me. Oh, Pippi. And I would have let a man, even though he was my husband, be responsible for my health care. And I would have hated myself for conforming. And that's what internalized misogyny is. It's hating yourself for conforming. But I didn't. I personally see the men and women telling me that I have internalized misogyny. I like to call them the fragile flower feminists, the feminists who think that women shouldn't be, or too fragile to be criticized. Excuse me. I think, let me adjust Pippin here. Give me a second. Okay, I personally see the women and men who tell me that I have internalized misogyny, the fragile flower feminists, as the real misogynists. They are telling me that in order to be a real and correct, I guess is the word, a real and correct woman, that I need to agree with them and turn my back on my hobbies, which is what people have been telling me my whole life, and I'm not going to. I'm going to keep doing exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to turn my back on their opinions of what being a woman is, and go on to what I originally set out to do, which is support, not your shield, and Gamergate. And as my husband likes to say, that's why I'm a thorn. If you sit on a flower, it's crushed, it's destroyed. But when you sit on a thorn, you jump up and say, holy hell, that hurt. And you don't do it again. So I'm still proud to be a thorn. And I'm going to step off my soapbox now. And I hope you had a wonderful weekend. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. And Halloween's coming up, so I hope everyone's Halloween is wonderful too. And now I have to figure out how I'm going to get to the mouse so I can click on the cheese. Who knows? Hey, Pips. Hey, Pippi, I gotta move.